Hello, it's Brandon Knapp here again, and welcome to my third, I'll say final reading of some stories made by, I'll say, very talented Silver Zero Wisp on our Deviantart. I would appreciate if you go check out the stories yourself. I will link, as I've done for the previous two, I will link this one in the description below if you want to go check it out. You can also give them a watch on Deviantart. Just check out if there's any more stories that they put out. Anyway, so this one I'm going to be, I guess, reading is one titled "A Feeling of Being Loved," which is a Rias Gremory from High School DxD X-Mail reader story. And hope you enjoy my reading. Humans like to think they're alone in the universe. That's a lie. Just ask the hundreds of fallen angels and devils on Earth. Most are questionable when it comes to morality, but one Puritan clan was overall good. The Gremory and Lucifuge clan, before the new leader of the clan, Surzix, took over, the clan treated the pieces as nothing more than slaves and servants, but now they're more like an extension of family. Family, to some people, it's just a last name. They feel that should be enough for you to feel love. It's not. Such is the case for the new transfer student to Kuo Academy. He's from America, and he knows the last name isn't enough and feels alone as a result. Little does he know whose eyes he'll be catching when he arrives with his artistic ideas. First day at a new school. Man, this uniform is itchy, but hey, it's comfy. Maybe this is the chance for a new start. And if all goes well, that job interview, I'll be able to move out before too long. Is that wrong? I want to? I mean, I'd rather actually be alone than feel that way at home. I shake my head as I enter the gates to the academy. I see some people walking around. All of them are about my age. I see some look my way and begin whispering to each other. I ignore it as best as I can. I just head to my classroom for my class. First class is art, I believe. I walk through the academy halls as I once again get a few glances. I get some glares from the guys while the girls look at me curiously. I also catch the name Issei and the word pervert in the same sentence. Huh, must be a creeper or hormonal idiot. I shake my head. I arrive at the classroom and politely knock. Soon the teacher answers his door, and to my shock, he looks European. He has white hair and is rather tall. Not exactly thin, but not obese either. Sort of like an old fat man, I guess. His hair is tied up in a small ponytail and has some scruffy beard. He smiles at me. You must be the new student. My name is Vincent Dubet. I'm the art teacher here. Come in, please. We are about to discuss our first group project, Vince said kindly as he stepped aside to let me in. I smile a bit. I think I'm going to like him. I step inside, and once Vince joins my side, he speaks. Class, we have a new transfer student. Introduce yourself, Vince said to me, smiling. I nod and clear my throat. My name is Brandon Knapp, but Brandon is more than fine. I'm from the United States, if my accent wasn't enough to give that away. I get away. I joked, which made the girls giggle and some of the guys chuckle. I'm hoping to be a writer one day, but I love art, and I hope we can all be friends, I said, smiling. Vince patted my back and went to speak, but was cut off by one of the girls. Oh, he's kind of cute. I hope he's not a pervert like Issei, the girl said, smiling at me before looking at a boy. He had brown, spiky hair and palish skin. He looks like he's working on building up muscle. He holds his hands up, and I know that look, and it's like I know I am, but I didn't do anything. Great, more competition, I hear one guy saying, sounding irritated. I shake my head at him with a frown. He looks at me and glares. What? He asks angrily. I roll my eyes. I heard you. It's not competition, jackass. Maybe they just don't like you, I said seriously. Some of the classes ooh as that guy looks down in shame and slight anger. Enough of that. We have a lecture to get to. Now, who among you doesn't have a partner for this project? Vince asked the class with authority. The boy I now know as Issei raises his hand. All right, Issei, do you mind being Brandon's partner? Vince asked kindly. Issei shakes his head no, smiling. Excellent. Just go sit next to him, Brandon. Here's the project sheet. Vince said, handing me the sheet. I nod and thank him before walking up to the stairs to Issei. I sit down and pull out a notebook with a pencil. Nice to meet you, man. Don't worry about Vince. He's super chill about all this, Lisi said to me, smiling. I nodded in agreement as Vince sets up the printer for his PowerPoint. I'll show you around school if I'll show you around school after class if you want. Issei offered kindly. I look at him and smirk a small bit. I don't know if I should hang around the school pervert. I said sarcastically. He rubs the back of his head, which makes me chuckle. I'd appreciated it if you did. I said a bit more genuine. Issei smiles back, and nods as we look to the front of the class. Small time skip. Issei just finished showing me around, not forgetting to point out all the best peeping spots, even though I kept telling him I didn't need to know, but he didn't seem to care. After it was done, he asked me to come to the ORC building. It stands for Occult Research Club. He says we can begin our project there since he has a meeting to attend anyway. When we got there, we were met with an older-looking building. I just shrugged it off as he guided me inside, where I was met with a rather nice-looking interior. I don't comment on it. He leads me to a living room of sorts before dropping his bag and plopping on the couch. I put mine down and sit calmly. I pull out a sketch pad and looked at Issei, who pulled out his. Piece of advice. Start with just chicken scratch sketches and go from there, I said, smiling. Issei nodded as we began sketching stuff down. It was a few minutes before I spoke again. When are the others meant to get here? I probably should step out when you guys talk, I asked, looking at Issei. He shrugged, and I leaned over and looked at what he was sketching. Really? I asked with a raised brow. Issei merely bit his lip, trying not to laugh. I then began laughing a bit. The worst part is, with the way you've drawn it, it could work if we made a wall piece, I said, finally giving in to my laughter, which makes Issei laugh. When we then hear the door open and we turn to look, I am greeted by some people I know. In the sense, I know their names around the school. Issei stands, and so do I. Issei, who's this guy? The guy I know as Kiba Yuto asked. He then stares at me for a few minutes before snapping his own fingers. Ah, the transfer from America. I'm Kiba Yuto. Nice to meet you, Kiba said, extending his hand to me. I shook it firmly. Nice to meet you too. My name is Brandon. But Brandon is more than fine, I said, smiling a bit. He smiled more, and I looked at the others. One was a shorter girl with blonde hair. I swear she seems Nunley? Is that a word? Probably not. The second is a girl with white hair and a bored look on her face. That's Asi and Koniko. Asi is the blonde, Koniko is the white-haired one. Issei explained as I looked them over. I nod and greet them, which they smiled back at. The third girl has blue hair and is pretty tall. She also has easily noticeable assets. Mandy's school uniforms are pretty tight fitting now that I think about it. The name's Akano, and I have to say, you're pretty handsome. Almost as handsome as Issei, Akano said with a flirty smile and a wink. I raised a skeptical eyeball at that, which makes her giggle. Me, handsome, please, tell me another lie like how the sky's red, I replied jokingly. She rolled her eyes at that, which makes me chuckle. I look at Issei as the others step inside fully. Is that everyone? I asked. Issei went to speak, but a new voice cut him off. Friend of yours, you say? A new voice asked. I looked over, and I swear time itself dropped as I drank in the image before me. For me there stood a tall woman with long, well-kept red hair. She has aquamarine eyes, which hold a certain sincerity to them. Not something I'm used to. There are also secrets hidden behind them in an old soul, much like my friends in America said I had. She's wearing the school uniform, and I think it may be a size too small, or she's just that healthy. She seems to stare at me for a time until I cleared my throat to speak. My name is Brandon Knapp. Brandon is what I prefer, if you don't mind. I'm a transfer from America, I explained as I stuck my hand out for her to shake. She seems to snap out of a trance and take my hand to shake it. She smiles at me, and I swear I felt myself blush in response. Nice to meet you, Brandon. My name is Rias Gremory. I'm the president of the Occult Research Club. Ria said to me kindly. I just smiled at her, and I swear I saw her cheeks turn a bit of pink. Are you going to join? We're always accepting new members, Rias asked me kindly. I am a bit surprised at the offer, but it's not unwelcome. I might. I just need to get settled into my new life and all. I explained kindly. Rias nodded understanding, and I went to sit on a chair. I sit back down on the couch and grab my sketch pad. Do I need to go? I'd hate to interrupt, I said, looking at everyone. They all looked to Rias, who shook her head no. No, don't worry about it. No major things are going on, so we're all gonna have a lay-in. Next to that, some of us need to get those sketches done, Ria said, looking around. A few of the others agreed and got to work. Issa and I went back to it as we all chatted. They all asked me some questions, where in America I'm from, and what I'd like to do, some hobbies, and and many other things. They seemed genuinely interested in getting to know me. I guess I made an excellent group of friends here today. Not bad for a first day, I suppose. Soon enough, though, I get a text from mom asking me to come home since dinner is done. I really don't want to go, but I also don't want to hear it later. I sigh and pack my stuff up. I stand and bid them all farewell. Ria said I could come back anytime, which just made me smile brightly. I quite like her, I think. She seems so nice. Then again, I could be wrong. I've been burned before, after all. I wave them all goodbye and make my way home for the night. A night of silence. I sigh at that. Ria's point of view. That boy is interesting. I quite. If he had sacred gear, I may even want my peerage, but he doesn't. He does have a strange energy about him. Odd that he shows up on the same day many fallen angels leave my territory. I wonder if it's connected. I also can't get over the way he looked at me. He looked at me like I was a masterpiece to be admired versus owned like Weiser did, and to an extent Issei does. I know he doesn't mean to, but it comes across that way sometimes. I shy and shake my head at that. Soon enough, the door opens, revealing the rest of my peerage. So, any fallen angels about? I asked Gasper and Zenobia. They both looked at each other before looking at me and shaking their heads no. I'm beyond surprised at this. None. Not even that warehouse I sent you to? Asked, sounding very surprised. They both shook their heads again, and everyone is now surprised. We looked around, but nothing. It's like they all vanished or ran or something. Gasper explained as he looked around. We are all flabbergasted. That shouldn't be possible. Nothing could chase them away, unless that boy. That's not a bad thing, is it? Issei asked everyone. We all looked at him as he shifted a bit nervously under our gazes. I mean, less fighting and fewer people getting hurt makes us look good to your brother, Rias, Issei explained fully. I suppose he's right, but I have a feeling now. I have a feeling I know what may be causing them all to hide. Brandon. He doesn't have secret gear, but he does have some energy on him. Maybe it's like a repellent to the fallen angels. Koneko, I said as I looked at the said Neko. She looked at me. Follow Brendan home. Maybe his parents are special and he's a half breed. I ordered Koneko. She nodded and left the building right away. I leaned back into my chair. If it is him, we need to protect him, I said as I looked at everyone. No one argued. Akano. Not that we could protest that. I think he'd be a great friend. Agano said happily. The others agreed, short of Gasper and Zenobia. I agreed as well as we sat here and talked and waited for whatever Konica reports to us, Konica's point of view. It didn't take me long to catch up to Brandon as he was walking home instead of taking the bus. Most would have, but maybe he hated the bus. Not that I blame him. Stinks inside most of the time. So I follow him. He doesn't do anything out of the ordinary except hum some songs as he listens to music on his iPod. Soon enough, we walk into a suburb. He heads inside a house, and I camp outside in the bush to look inside. He speaks to his parents, and they respond, but look on his face makes me think he's distant from them in some way. I can tell he's talking to them about us, but his parents don't respond the way one would. Like, I get he's a teenager, but shouldn't they show more than mild interest in what he's saying? He seems to sigh a bit, but blushes as he speaks to someone. I think he's talking about Rias. This is interesting. His mom takes more interest in this than his dad does. She says something, and Brandon responds, looking a tad sad. I wonder why. He then takes his bag and walks to his room. I quietly follow him from the outside. I see him set his bag down and frown. He shakes his head and sits at his desk. He opens the drawer and pulls out a journal, I think. He writes in it for a time before looking at the door. He seems to shout and walk out of the door. He seems to shout and walks out of the room. I open his window with my magic and make my way over to his journal. I open it and begin to skim through it. I only stop at important bits. Some things are about his family, friends, and some family. I then stop as I see a page stained with teardrops. I read it and naturally feel bad for him. He speaks of something he won, some science fair he won thanks to his theory on how dinosaurs died. He claims it wasn't a meteor that did it alone. It helped, but in the end, it was all the earthquakes and volcanic eruptions that killed them. Oh, he speaks on how his parents told his parents, but they were busy taking care of his older sibling to be noticed. I flipped back some pages to find the source of this. They caused some illness and it messed up their entire body. Seizures, immune system issues, and so on. I flipped forward once again as I processed his information. I stopped once more on his first day in high school. At this point, he says his sibling could take care of themselves, but his parents never came back for him. They had to leave him alone to his own devices for years, and once the situation was resolved, they never came back to make sure he was okay. Sad. That explains why he seemed distant to his parents. I read on and stopped at the page that he said he was moving. I sigh and put the journal back the way it was, and stand there thinking. Nothing of how this could be the repellent as Rias put it, but this does give some perspective. I then decided to look around his room for a bit. Then I see on a shelf an interesting and old-looking dagger. Very old. I'd even say ancient. As I get closer, I feel a little unsettled. Strange. It's putting off ways of whatever energy is making me feel this way. This is it. It has to be. I take note of the bone style design before I leave through the window. I lock it back with magic and teleport back to the building. Once there, everyone looks at me. Well, as far as I can tell, he and his family are just normal humans. I found a journal and read it. Nothing to note for the mission, but I did learn about him, I explained as I looked at everyone. They waited for me to continue. I found a dagger sitting on a stand. It looks like a sharpened cow's bottom jaw on a simple wooden handle. It was putting off waves of slight unsettling energy as I got closer. It was more intense, but it didn't affect me too much, I explained fully to everyone. Rias goes wide-eyed as seems to realize something. I know what's made the fallen angel skip town. Rias says she stood up. Everyone looked at her expectantly. His family are the keepers of the first lethal weapon used to kill for greed, Cain's dagger. Reese explained to us. We all were all pretty surprised by this. I thought it was destroyed when he died. Um, but wasn't it destroyed? How could they let something as strong as that stay in one place in the wild? Stay in one piece and the wild? Akano asked in shock. I have to agree. This dagger is capable of killing any immortal being due to its curse. They kept it as a bright glass in case of emergency device, something that can kill even immortal beings thanks to the fallen angel Lucifer's curse, which is perfect for that, but it was lost when the first horseman came to Earth on a test run. It fell into the hands of a family who have kept it hidden since. I guess Brandon is their descendant. Descendant. Ree said as she placed her hand on her chin and thought. Wow, Issei whispered. He then seemed to smile and get excited. If he has that, he can help us, Issei said happily. Reyes looked at him and frowned. Not as a devil, but I'm sure if he knew what it was, he would defend us if needed. Not to mention, this also means no devil would dare mess with him or his family. Issei said happily. I suppose the pervert isn't wrong in this regard. That may be true, but what if we told him what it was? Would he keep it? Rias asks Issei seriously. He goes to nod, but shuts his mouth and begins to frown. Exactly. That's assuming he believes us. For now, we keep quiet until it becomes needed to protect him and his family. I'll need to inform my brother about this when we see him again. Rhea said firmly. No one argued, though Asya seemed worried, her nun training at its finest. She knows the story of Cain, so it's not hard to believe she'd be worried. Now, Konako, you said his journal gave you some perspective. What did you find out? Rhea asked curiously. I frowned a bit, thinking of what's in the journal. I sighed and looked up. Konako seemed sad at what I asked. Um, That's odd, especially since she never usually shows her emotions all that much. She sighs and looks up at me and is frowning. This can't be good. I wait with bated breath and slight worry in my soul. Out of everything in that journal, I learned one major thing from it. Kanko said sadly. We all looked at her expectantly, and she frowned even deeper. He's lonely, Konako said sadly. Everyone, myself included, gains a concerned look. I won't go into too much detail for his sake, but when he was young, his older sibling got sick, and it messed her life up. Immune system issues, among other things. His parents had to pay all their attention to her as he grew up. They left him alone to figure out most things out. Alone. Even when his sibling was able to handle the issue themselves, his family didn't come back for him. Not to mention, he said he wasn't good at making friends in his hometown. I got the impression that he's never felt love, not in the way most families should feel anyway. Kanako finished as she sat down. We're all a tad surprised at this. Not a tad. We're all pretty shocked by this, as each of us take a seat. So then, I said, trying to process what I heard, someone as kind as him shouldn't feel this way. With how he acted, I would have never guessed, I said sadly as I looked at the ground. I hear some sniffles come from Mazia, which isn't surprising. Well then, we'll have to show him he isn't alone here, I said with a bit of determination. Everyone looked at me as I looked up. Let's face it, he wiggled his way into our hearts in some way, and he's our friend now. Regardless of his family's situation, even unintentionally, we'll show him we love him, I said, smiling happily. The others take a moment to process this and then smile as well. They all agree with me. Such a great idea, Rias. We'll become the best friends he could ever ask for. Akino said happily. She stood up and clapped her hands. She then smirked a bit at me. Who knows? With the way he admired you, admired you. Maybe he'll even fall in love with you. Akino teased me a bit. I try and scowl at her, but I can feel myself blush at the idea, which makes her cackle a bit. See? Look at her face. She agrees and doesn't even know it, Akino said, laughing. Some of the others chuckled while Issei looked at me with a raised brow. They're just teasing. Don't worry, I said in a reassuring tone. Issei seemed skeptical but nodded. I sighed in relief as I began thinking. I mean, Brandon treated me like a person versus something to be owned and conquered. He's also kind and seemed to genuinely like me and everyone. Not to mention, he is kind of cute. I blushed more at that thought. Maybe? No. I love Issei, yet I can't shake Brandon out of my head. It's been about 3 weeks since I moved here, and I have to say, it's not as bad as I thought it would be. I made a bunch of friends who seemed to like me. I also officially joined the club since I was there almost every day anyway. Just made the student president stupid happy since I really wasn't into most of the clubs. I'm headed there now, or rather the pool, since I wanted to swim today. Rias also seemed to be rather close to me. Part of me wants to believe she likes me, maybe even loves me. But the cynic in me says she's just being friendly and that this feeling you have won't go away anytime soon. I found out that thought. I felt alone for a long time, too long. I'm hoping to be in this club will. I'm hoping to be in this club will help, but it doesn't help unless I'm there with them. I sighed and just kept walking. I arrive at the pool and see everyone's already swimming, short of Rias, Akano, and Issei. I also caught on to the fact that all the girls here are short of Akano and a girl I met named Ross Faisa. Flirt with him constantly. That just feeds into the cynic side of me. I got to the changing room after greeting everyone, and I met with Akano and Issei kissing on a bench. Oh goodness gracious! I'm not surprised. They both look at me with a surprise. I'm surprised while I keep a flat face. Couldn't even bother going to one of the stalls, huh? I asked flatly. Issei scrambled to get up, but Akano smirked and kept him pinned to the bench, which made me chuckle. Oy vey, I said, chuckling as I walked into one of the stalls. I changed all of my clothes into my swim trunks and left my stuff in the locker Akano saved for me. I thanked her and walked out. I smiled, seeing everyone just relaxing and head towards the pool until I hear a voice behind me. How do I look, Brandon? I hear Rias ask me from behind. I turn around and not gonna lie, she looks very nice. She's wearing a two-piece swimsuit that is almost the same color as her hair. I just smile as I look her up and down. You look beautiful, I said, since I say sincerely. She seems surprised but begins to blush. Then again, that's pretty normal. You can wear a trash bag and look beautiful, I said with a small chuckle at the end. Not gonna. Ria seems to blush even deeper at that. So, thank you, Brandon. Ria says, a bit bashfully. I just smiled at her and turned to the pool. I see everyone in there looking at me, surprised, as Visi stares at me from a beach chair next to Akano. I shift a bit under the gazes. Guys, leave him alone, I hear Ria say as she walks up beside me. I just shrug a bit and I dive into the pool. When I surface, I see Ria shaking her head at me. I sigh in relief at how cold the water is. I then decide to show off my solo trick and relax my body. I then begin to flow on my back, no floaties are required. How are you doing that? Rias asked me curiously. I chuckle and begin swimming normally again. I just for her to come in, she does. Her hair gives off a nice gleam when wet. It's hard to explain, but have you ever felt truly relaxed, like all your muscles are no longer tensed up? Asked her kindly. Ria shook her head no. Well, that's what I do when I do that here. I said as I gently grabbed her shoulder. She smiled at at the contact point. I'll hold you up as we go. I promise I won't drop you, I said kindly as I looked into her eyes. She immediately smiled gently at me, which made me blush a bit. She nodded as I pushed her back. I placed my other hand on her backside as I helped her onto her back. Okay, close your eyes and breathe deeply, I said softly. Uh, she listened and she began to relax. I sat there waiting to feel her body begin to gain buoyancy. When she does, I let her go, and there it is. You're floating, sort of. If I were to push down, you'd start sinking, I explained as I looked her over. This is nice. Thank you. Ria said with her eyes closed and with a gentle smile. She opened her eyes and let herself down to look at me. She smiled sweetly at me, which makes me rub the back of my head. Back of my neck. You're full of surprises, Brandon. Ria said to me kindly. I just chuckled a bit before she hugged me. I go stiff since she's half naked, but I hugged back in the end happily. She feels nice to be. No, never mind. She pulls back as we hear laughing. Look at his face. It's red. It's as red as Reese's hair. Agno said in a teasing manner. I know my face went redder than that. Reese seemed to glare at Akino. What are you glaring at? I see the pink on your face. You like him a lot, huh? Agno said asked in a teasing tone. I look at Reese as she still glares, but I do see a small bit of blush on her face. Reese goes to respond, but a new voice cuts her off. Aw, people are here. A small girl said. We all looked over and saw a small family husband, wife, a small girl, and an older boy. Almost like my family. What do we do, Daddy? The girl asked the man. He smiled sweetly. We can ask to join or try again later, the father explained. They all walked up, bags in hand, and he smiled kindly at us. I'm sorry for interrupting, but we planned a family outing to swim today. Uh, we didn't expect so many people to be here. Do you mind if we join you? We understand if not. The father requested kindly. I pulled myself out of the pool along with Rias to greet them. I don't mind. What about you guys? I asked the others still in the pool. They all said no or not really. Heard the little girl gasp at that. I look at her and smile. I kneel to her level. I'm Brandon. What's your name? I asked the small girl, smiling. Lilo, my dad's on a business trip, so we're vacationing while we're here. The girl explained happily. I smiled and ruffled hair before standing up. She giggles a bit. Nice to meet you, Lilo. This is Rias, I said as I gestured to her. Rias waved at Lilo, which the girl waved back. She's the president of our little club at school. They helped clean the pool a while back before I joined, so they get to use it freely. I explained, smiling. The family smiled at that. Okay. You're very pretty, Miss Rias, the girl complimented. Rias just smiled and thanked her. I just smiled as I looked at Rias, who seems pretty happy right now. Lilo then looked between us and giggled. You two are so cute together, Lilo claimed, much to her parents and my own personal shock. We're not together, I said, knowing I was a blushing mess. Lilo seemed disappointed at that, but her parents made her stop talking to save me and Rias from further embarrassment. I looked at Rias, who's blushing like mad from the claim. I could just drown myself right now, I think. The parents took their children to change while I stood there shifting nervously. Sorry about that. I know that was awkward, I stammered out. It's okay, Rias stammered out, not looking at me. I patted her back to try and comfort her. She smiled a small bit. She muttered something under her breath, which I couldn't understand. I decided against asking what she said. I said nothing until I heard running. I turned and saw the two kids running at me full speed. Ah! I screamed as they tackled me into the pool. I make a big splash and come to surface to see the two kids laughing along with everyone else. Okay, let's play, I said, smiling as the kids screamed playfully as I began throwing water on them. Today will be fun. Oh my god. Why was I blushing so hard? It's not like I'm in love with Brandon. I mean, sure, he's nice. He treats me like a person versus a prize. And obviously, he scrapes with kids based on how much fun the little ones are having as their parents set up a small table for lunch with Kiba's help. I'm not in love with him. I love Issei. I'm not sure if I even believe myself. We have gotten to know Brandon pretty well over the past few weeks, short of his family life. When we ask him, he brushes it off. We know what I know we know what it's like already, but I mean, we hope to get him to open up on his own. I sigh at that and go to sit on one of the chairs. I just watched Brandon play with the kids happy. You say, "You're fond of him, aren't you?" I hear A say, ask from my side. I look over wide eyed and go to deny it. He pushes his hand up to stop me. Don't deny it, Rias. You look at him in the same way our art teacher's wife looks at him, and vice versa. Issei said calmly. I shake not my head, not trying to deny it more. No, you say you're wrong. He's just a good friend. You know that. I said, trying to sound a bit seductive to him. He gave me a fat look. I sigh. It just sounds like I'm trying to convince myself, doesn't it? I asked, looking down before looking at Issei. He nodded his head yes. I gave him a worried look. I'm not upset, Issei said calmly. I looked at him surprised. Surprised and a bit shocked. Sure, I mean, are you falling for that human? The scandal. Issei joked a bit, trying to ease the tension. It works a bit as I let my shoulders relax. Seriously, I may want to be harem king, but I'm not going to stop you girls if you fall in love. I'm not that big of an asshole. I'll care for you guys and want you to be happy. Easy said as he placed a hand on my arm. I am surprised. I mean, with the way Issei talks sometimes, I'd assume he'd be angry. I can still live out my dream. I mean, if I get strong enough, I'm sure some devils in hell would love to be with me. Issei joked again with a wink. That made me giggle a bit. Next to that, I'll still keep my promise. I still keep my promise, right? It's just now you'll have two men protecting you, so please just be happy, okay? Issei requested me kindly. I find myself smiling at his care. I shouldn't be surprised. He begged me to resurrect Asia because she was kind, and even cried when I killed Rainier. Maybe perfect, but he cares for those people in his life. I hug him. Thank you, Issei. I don't know if I love him yet. I'll figure it out. I said, smiling at him. Issei grinned as he pulled back. I look over to Brandon. Only to see him smiling, looking sadly at something. I follow his gaze and see him looking at the family. Leo and her brother are smiling and laughing with their parents as they eat some lunch. I frown as I realize what's happening. I get up and go over to Brandon and sit next to him on the edge of the pool. You okay? I asked him softly. Brandon snapped out of his trance and nodded. I'm fine, Brandon said, looking at me. I gave him a look that said I don't believe him, and he sighed. Okay, just some memories or lack thereof, I guess. Brandon muttered sadly. I began rubbing his back. Look, I have something I should tell you. Can we go somewhere private? Brandon asked, looking down. I stood up and offered my hand to him. He grabbed it, and I led him to one of the changing rooms and had him sit down. I sat next to him. I haven't told you about my parents. I feel I should. Brandon breathed out shakily. I nodded at him. Take your time. If you need to stop at any point, I won't judge you. I promise. I said to him in a reassuring tone. He looked at me. He looked at me and nodded before looking down. He took a deep breath and rubbed his head with his hand. Okay, when I was about 6, maybe 7, my sibling had their appendix rupture. It was misdiagnosed by their primary doctor and nearly killed them. Brandon explained while still looking down. Uncle didn't mention that. That makes me sad and so angry at the same time. Anyway, after staying in the hospital, they were brought home, but we quickly learned they had problems. Brandon then stared at the luck in front of us. Two were standout. They got sick a lot. We learned their immune system took a huge hit due to how long her appendix went untreated. It just fried their immune system. That was bad enough, but they had seizures they couldn't control for years. I even had to help them keep safe once in a while. Brandon then sighed deeply as I just frowned. So that's what Akuna meant by sick. So the attention between us was given to them in its entirety. I want to make sure this is clear. I understand it and don't resent my parents or siblings for what happened. We were dealt a crap hand by life and had to play the game as best we could, Brandon stated firmly, looking at me as to make sure I understood what he meant. I nodded, still frowning. He sighed and looked down again. I was left alone to grow up, to learn everything and every skill I know, to gain my oral compass and so on. And I never felt I could go to my parents for a nightmare or anything. I still feel in a way alone and unloved. Even if I understand the situation, it still feels bad. Brandon finished, sounding almost depressed. I almost felt a tad emotional at that. Sure, my parents were busy, but they always showed me and Surzek's equal love. I sit there for a moment, thinking before nodding myself. I pull him into a hug, and he doesn't even fight back. I honestly don't know what to say. I whispered as I held him and ran my fingers through his hair. He just breathed out in response. But I do know a few things. One is that even if they don't show it, your parents love you, I told him softly. He breathed out and nodded his head. And we do too, I said kindly. He pulled back and looked at me. I smiled at him. I know some of us don't show it all that well, like Konako, but we care for you. You're our friend and we love you. You don't have to be alone anymore, I said as I pet his head. He seemed a bit surprised at this, before smiling happily and hugging me again. And remember, our house is always open to you. I said to him kindly. He tightened his grip on me before pulling away. Thank you. It's not easy for me to talk about. Most of the time, I can ignore my feelings, but every once in a while, it overcomes me. Makes it hard to do anything. He explained a bit sadly. He then smiled more. But it's nice to know people care about me, especially someone like you, he said, smiling at me. I tried to express my blush until he hugged me again. Thank you, he whispers to me. I hug him back until he pulls. And thanks for listening, he said to me kindly. I just waved him off. Of course. If you ever feel alone, please come over, okay? I'd hate for you to feel alone, I said to him kindly. He nodded his head and I stood up. Well, we should get back and don't get back. Don't want them thinking the wrong thing. I joked slightly, which got him to chuckle. He stood with me and just nodded his head. We headed back outside and I watched him jump into the pool next to the kids. I smiled as he came up laughing as the two kids giggled in joy. I looked at Issei, who had his thumbs up as Akino dragged him underwater. Maybe I do like Brandon. Maybe even love him. I need to be sure though. I don't want him to feel alone anymore. For the past few months, Rias has made sure I knew I was loved in some way. Having Asio come to check on me when I was sick, to which the blonde said she would have done regardless. Having Kiba talk with me as I study, and of course, Issei annoys me between classes to chat. Seems he and Akano have been going on a few dates, maybe where he says she's shown him things. Man, that boy's libido must be high. I chuckle at that. Rias herself has taken the time to get to know me and was there when all my pent up feelings bubbled to the surface in front of my parents. They weren't even angry. They said I had the right to be upset and they were fully expecting me to resent or hate them. We had a long talk and we all understand that time I wasn't given can't be given now, but that's why they're supporting me through college when I go. The first step in apology. Rios was with me most of the night as I calmed down. Today, though, I had a feeling I needed to bring something with me to bring some with us, something to our club meeting. I had a feeling someone or something was going to threaten my friends. I won't let that happen. Azazel, I know it's you, Gremory. You are why my angels won't step foot here. Now explain before I kill you all. Azrael threatened me and my peers again. He's been ranting and raving for the past half hour about how we are hiding something. My brother stepped in front of me. She has nothing, and I will say this once. Threaten her again, and I won't hesitate to take you down myself, my brother stated with authority. Azrael and he had a stare down before Azrael scoffed and backed off. She's hung something, Lucifer, and you refuse to believe me. Even Lord Phoenix's devils are hesitant to step into town, Azrael stated angrily. Lord Riser nodded in agreement. Either get her to talk, or we will. Azrael stated angrily, glaring me down. Issei's already pulled out his gear to jump in if needed. My brother stayed silently as Azrael tried to look threatening again. He goes to speak as he approaches me again, but a familiar voice cuts him off. Hey, why don't you back the F up? I hear Brandon say angrily. I turn in surprise, and he's looking rather intimidating. The lady says she doesn't know, so to back off. Brandon says, walking the stand beside me. I'm surprised. Hear her all of that. Oh no. You have no right to tell me what to do, pathetic human. Azrael shouted at Brandon, who didn't even blink in response. She's breaking the rules and should be punished, Azrael shouted angrily, once more trying to look threatening. Yet Brandon shows no fear. Though Azrael won't show it, he looks surprised. It's in his eyes. She didn't cause your stupid problem, you stupid pigeon. I did when I moved into town with a certain item, Brandon said as he reached into the back of his pants. He pulls out Cain's dagger. This did. Brandon stated flatly. Now Azrael showing his fear along with Lord Phoenix. My brother, though, only seemed surprised. Cain's dagger? Why do you have it? Azrael tried to demand through his fear. Brandon merely stared the angel down, which made him flinch. My brother stepped in to calm the situation. I recommend you ask nicely. This human has no reason to care for the bounces of houses, so why would he hesitate to kill you? My brother asked Azrael seriously. Azrael tensed up, but didn't reply. My brother turned to Brandon. May I inquire why you have it? My brother asked kindly and calmly. Brandon nodded. Yes, I'm its new guardian, Brandon said calmly. We were all shocked to hear that. My great great uncle, known as Pretty Mean Paul, was the last one, and when he met me, he said I was worthy of protecting and using the knife. He died after he gave it up. Until I give it up to the next guardian, I am immortal. A small curse. I am destined to watch the ones I love die, much how Cain did when he killed his brother. And I've always known about devils and angels and fallen angels, along with vampires and the like. Brandon explained to us calmly. My brother I didn't understand it, but I have a question. If you've known about our true natures, why did you hang around? I asked Brandon worriedly. He looks at me and his gaze softens as he smiles a bit. He goes to respond but gets cut off by Lord Phoenix. Enough. We have our answer, Azrael. We can't harm him, but he can kill us, Lord Phoenix said with authority. Azrael wants to protest, but he knows he shouldn't. They turned to me. Apologies for the accusations. We won't bother you or him again. He finished before turning to leave. I'll say this once. Threaten my friends again or ever threaten my family, I will not hesitate to kill you, Brandon said in a deathly serious tone. Even I had a small chill go up my spine at that. Azrael and Lord Phoenix both nodded before teleporting away. I'm not gonna lie, that was beyond attractive. My brother sighed a bit. I was afraid that would escalate. Uh, I was afraid that would escalate, my brother said with a relief sigh. He then turned to us. Thank you for defending my sister, guardian, Brandon. I will not forget it, my brother said, sounding thankful. My random waved my brother off like it was nothing. Just how she described you, selfless and kind. No wonder she's. My brother stops as he feels my cold glare. I'll let her tell you. For now, I must go. My brother said with a small bow before teleporting away from us. Brandon breathed out and put the knife away. Sorry I didn't tell you all I knew. I just wanted to gauge you all. Brandon said, looking at us. And to answer your question, Rias, I hung around you all because you're my friends. You may be devils and whatnot, but that doesn't make you bad people. You've all helped me a lot, he said, giving us a gentle smile. He then looked at me. I didn't mean to upset you if I did, he said a bit nervously. I just smiled at him and shook my head no. No, it's okay. Just a bit surprised. It's nice to know that you care, though. You don't care, though, I said to him, smiling. He sighed in relief at that. I look and see Issa gesturing for me to get on with it. I blushed but agree. This has been almost 3 months in the waiting. Brandon, I need to tell you something, I said, blushing a small bit. I just hope he feels the same. I'm so glad Reese isn't upset with me. I'd hate for her to be mad since I love her. Yeah, that's right. I've fallen in love with the Crimson Princess of Rowan. As fun of a title that it is, it doesn't do her justice. She genuinely cares about everyone around her, especially everyone in her peerage and her brother. Though the fact she has to tell me something does make me worried and a tad hopeful. When I met you 4 months ago, I had a feeling you were special. Well, we now know you are, but you were more than that. Rios began as she seemed nervous. That's not like her. You were so kind and sweet. You're such a good friend, you're but you're but you're lonely sometimes. Even with us, we can see it in your eyes sometimes. It breaks my heart a little each time I see that distant look you get. Rios said sadly as she looked down. I do as well. I tried to hide it so damn much, but I guess I missed the mark sometimes. She then looked up. We all try and show you you're not alone here. You never will be. We care for you, but Rias took a nervous sounding breath. I want to ensure you're never alone, Rias said. She took a few steps to me. Al tilted my head. As more than friends, Rias said with a nervous smile. I go wide-eyed. No way. What, you love me? I asked, sounding astounded and shocked. Rias nodded, still smiling. But why? I'm just me. No sacred cat gear, no devil powers, and I can be an emotional mess. Why? I asked, feeling a tad emotional. I just don't get it. Rias merely smiled gently before getting closer and cupped both my cheeks in her hand. Because you're you. You never try to be otherwise. You're so genuine, emotionals and all. That's why I love you and want to be with you, so you'll never be alone again. With Rhea said to me with love obvious in her voice. I stand there just staring at her. All I need to know is, she doesn't get to finish as I lunge forward and kiss her on the lips. I have my eyes closed and my arms around her waist as I wait for her to kiss back. She does so eventually, wraps her hands around my neck. I smile into the kiss as our lips begin to move in tandem with one another. I hear some of the others cheer, but I don't. But I don't. But I don't. I only care about the beautiful person in front of me. We stay that way for a time as I run my fingers through her beautiful hair. We do have to separate for air, and once we catch our breath, we smile at one another. I love you too, I said with love. Ria seemed to tear up at that and hugged me tightly, which I returned happily with a laugh. The others are smiling at us. Heck, even Issei, who seemed to want her in his harem, also almost seems teary-eyed. When Rias pulled back, she smiled at me. You've made me so happy. My father will love you, Rias said happily, which made me chuckle. She then gets an idea. Hey, since all the club members live in Issei's big house, do you want to move in? That way we can spend a lot more time together. If you want, Rias suggested happily. Look at Issei with Rias. If you don't mind, Issei, Rias said, smiling. Issei shrugged a bit. Not that I don't mind, but you have to promise you something, Brandon. Issei said a bit seriously. I gave him my full attention. Promise to protect her and never break her heart. Issei said seriously to me. I just shake my head at him. If you need to ask that, then I need to improve the impression of me you have, I said, smiling. Issei just smiled as I wrapped my arm around Ria's waist. Now to tell my parents, I said, looking down. I felt Ria cup my cheek and peck my lips, which made me smile. We'll do it together, okay? I nodded, and we teleported close to my house by my point stands. Once there, I entered and brought Ria's with me. Luckily, since it was the weekend, both parents were home. Mom, Dad, we need to talk, I said, a tad nervous. They gave me their full attention as I sat with Rias. Rias has offered me to move in with her and the rest of our club mates. She's the sister of Sir Zex, I explained seriously. My mom and dad were surprised at that, and we're dating now, I said as I held Ria's hand, who smiled. Mom and dad are silent for a time until both smile happily for me. I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy for you. I always joked about you finding a girl outside of our country, but from hell was never what I thought. Mom said happily, as dad, the ever so stoic, quiet man, nodded in agreement. Does she know that about? Mom doesn't finish as I nod my head. Mom then smiles. If you want to, sweetie, you can. I know you're not always happy here, Mom said sadly, but I go to say something, but she stops. It's okay, sweetie. We know why. Just please visit when you can, okay? Mom asked me kindly. I smiled and nodded my head as I stood. My mom met me and we hugged. I know we may have never shown it well, but we do love you, my mom said as I just hugged her tighter. I know. I love you guys too, I said as we hugged. My mom pulled back, smiling. I'm going to go get something from upstairs. I'll spend another week here, I said, smiling at Mom, who smiled back and nodded. I kissed Ria's cheek before walking upstairs. That was such a sweet scene, a small bonding moment for mother and son. Both parents looked at me smiling as I stayed seated. Just take care of him, okay? We never were able to properly and will always regret it, Brandon's mom requested kindly. I just smiled and nodded at her, which made her smile as well. To my surprise, his dad coughed before speaking. Give him the love and happiness we didn't. He deserves that and so much more, his dad said sadly as he held his wife's hand. I am a bit surprised to hear that from him, but I smile reassuringly and nod. I can promise you we all will. We're all one big family in the Gremory clan. From servant to my brother, our leader, we're all one big, stupid, loving family. I said, smiling, which made his dad smile in relief and nod. Next to that, I love him, and I'll be sure to show him every day if possible. I promise, I said with conviction. Both once again smiled and thanked me as we waited for the love of my life to come down the stairs. I come back downstairs to see my mom and dad looking very happy. I guess they had a chat with Rias. I smile at Rias, who stands and meets me. We share a small kiss before looking at my parents. I'll see you guys later. I'm taking her to dinner, I said as I winked at Rias. Mom and dad smiled at that. I love you guys, I said, smiling. Both said the same back. to me before Rias and I left. As we walked, I looked at Rias. I love you, Rias, and thank you for making me feel not so alone in the world, I said to Rias lovingly. We stopped walking as she looked at me with a loving smile. She caressed my cheek before pulling me into a loving kiss. When she pulled away, she put her forehead to mine. I love you too. And I promise you, no matter what, you'll never be alone, not as long as I am here with you. Reese said to me in a loving tone. I grabbed one of her hands and brought it to my chest as I smiled at her with my eyes closed. And I know you'll do the same for me, Reese whispered in me with love. I nodded before kissing her once more, one of many more to come. I was alone for so long, even with friends, family, or otherwise. I felt alone, lonely, forgotten, and tossed aside in some cases. I always understood why. The bad situation we had to handle as best we could. Then I met Rias and everyone, and they call it Research Club. I didn't feel as alone. Then I knew Rias better and fell in love. And now, even if those thoughts of loneliness creep into the back of my head, I know I'm never alone. Rias will always be there to show me as much. Her kind heart won't let her do otherwise. How much she cares for everyone around her is why I love her. For hate is always foolish, and love is love. And love is always wise. And I love Rias, and now I know I'm not alone anymore. Well, that's the end of that. And like I said, this was created by Silver Zero Wisp on DeviantArt. I will definitely make sure to leave a link in the description for the story. And yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this reading, just how I enjoyed doing this reading for this and the other two stories I read. Did a voiceover for, I guess. And yeah, hope you all have a good rest of your evening. Yes, see you all later.